Hello and welcome to the Board Game Barrage podcast, episode number 264. I am Kellen, your favorite host, the man of the people, the red tank himself, joined by Neelan and Mark. Say hello, friends.
Hello.
Hello.
If my voice sounds extra special, it is because I am recording from a brand new location. And the thing is, right, there's not been that many locations of recording. And I'm no longer by KFC, right? No longer 30 seconds or however long it was. And my ceilings are lower, but I finally have a backyard. So
nice.
I was thinking I could record in the back or in the garage, which I have a garage now, right, Mark? Like that's a subtle flex. For anyone in any normal part of the world, probably not a flex, but I have a garage now. Oh, or like garage, right? Like garage.
Or garage.
Think about that. Board games, that's what this is about. That's what it's always been about. And that's what it will forever be about. But today, a new interview series. And guess what?
What?
Well, I am being interviewed, which is a little weird and I don't have the questions. So it's a brand new format. Introduced by me, but before we get to the interview with me, hosted by me, we are going to talk about the games we've been playing. We are going to start off with Cuba Libre, and you can guess by the title of that Mark will be covering that. And then I will be covering Gangs of Dice. I was hoping that Neelan would lead this episode because he thought it was called Gang of Dice, and I was going to say, it's not Gang of Dice, it's Gangs of Dice, but because I'm leading it, I know the game I played. And then Neelan will follow us up with the hottest game of them all, Time of Empires. And then we will proceed with the aforementioned interview of myself from them in this self-titled episode. Mark, why don't you
was just calling the episode Kellen.
Yeah, what do you mean? It's my time in the spotlight.
Episode 264, Kellen.
That's people love that.
Yeah, that's what the people are asking for. They need it. They don't love it. They need it. It's even more dire than love.
And I'm getting some kind of red error on my mic, which is saying that I'm clipping off the top. So, this is just one of those things that people are going to have to figure out and get used to. You move to a new place and you're making your special dish, Kraft macaroni and cheese, but you don't know how long it takes to get the pasta water to boil because you're used to your old stove. That's right. Like that, but this is for them and all of us. We have to get used to this new environment.
Do you know how far the nearest KFC currently is from your location? So for people who want to triangulate where your new house is.
I don't want them to know, okay? I'm right by a cemetery, so if you want to try to triangulate that, I'm a little nervous. Okay.
Didn't somebody sort of figure out where you lived based on this is the KFC thing? Yeah.
There's only a couple in Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah. I will say I am within 30 seconds of KFC now, so at least someone is still holding that.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's good. Yeah,
they don't allow KFC in Vegas, so.
But again, a board game podcast. So, Mark, why don't you take us to everyone's favorite historic location? I saw some old people on Twitter were watching the stream.
Okay. I had Cuba Libre in my top 50 games of all time list, where it's been, I think, since we started doing the top 50 lists. And I mentioned on the last top 50 list that the game was slipping down the list and might very well be gone next year, primarily because I just hadn't gotten it played in a while. Well, to my great surprise, I had a number of people reaching out to fix that. The excellent YouTube channel Foster the Meeple graciously reached out offering me a game, as did Casey and Miguel from Brain in a Jar. Our schedules seemed to line up, and so I actually got a chance to play Cuba Libre with Casey and Miguel on their Twitch channel this last Saturday. In case you're interested in watching that, you can check it out by just Googling Brain in a Jar Twitch, and it'll get you right there. If you do so, you might want to skip a little bit of the beginning where I blather on with varying levels of accuracy about the historical events that led up to the time where the game takes place. But anyway, Cuba Libre is the second in a series of currently 10, but with 5 more in the works, of historically themed games where there is some aspect of counterinsurgency, which is where the games get their coin title from. So counterinsurgency being when a large group, often a government, fights against smaller groups, usually revolutionaries or guerrilla, some faction like that. As you may have already guessed, the place where Cuba Libre takes place is the Cuban Revolution. For more about the history of the Cuban Revolution, I would again implore you not to listen to my synopsis at the very start of our game with Casey Miguel, but I don't know, visit a local library or something. I think there's a Netflix show called Cuba Libre that's supposed to be pretty good. I don't know. Anyway.
Can you just translate everything for us into like root terminology? So like which faction?
Sure. Yeah, I can get to
faction, because that's the only way I'll listen to what you're about.
Yeah. I'll do that. I'll just clap when you should pay attention and you can check in. So, as Kellen was bringing up, in Cuba Libre, you are going to play as one of 4 asymmetric factions. There's the government, which is powerful at the beginning of the game and is trying to hold on to it, which I guess is like the cat faction.
Yeah, most likely.
The 26th of July, which are the guerrillas, which was the group led by the Castro brothers and Che Guevara, which are trying to sow unrest. I think that's a Woodland Alliance.
The bombers.
The bombers, yeah. There's the Directiva, which was a student-led revolutionary group, which I don't think maps on to one of the newer factions in Root, which I've lost track of long ago. And the final faction is the American Mob, which is called the Syndicate. Maybe they're the Vagabond. I don't know. Who knows?
It seems like we stretched this pretty far.
That's right. We tried at least. For the first 3 groups, the government and the 2 guerrilla factions, the game is to one degree or another some form of area control. There's much more to it than that, but that's basically what they're trying to do. The mob is playing a different game where they're just trying to open their casinos and amass a ton of resources. That's their win condition. Also, as you might imagine, the government starts off with a lot of resources while the revolutionaries start off with fewer. And across all the factions, there are very, very different win conditions. The insurrectionists have easier targets where they just need to get a certain amount of the population to be on their side, whereas the government is trying to hold a lot of control and needs to be in charge of the 3 major cities in order to win. And the casinos, again, are just mainly focusing on money. And the way that the play of the game works is through a card-driven system where you're always going to have 2 cards visible, the current card and the next one coming up. And each card will show a real historical event or person and a couple of different events that either did happen or might have happened if things went differently. So you might have like Batista, who is the president, fleeing the country. So that might be the name of the card. And then one of the events is what happened when Batista flew the country. And then the other event is what would have happened perhaps if he hadn't fled the country. So there's always like the true to life thing. And then if that person hadn't existed or if that thing hadn't happened, how things might have changed.
What was this character's name?
Batista?
From Glass Onion?
Yeah. The former wrestler. Before he was wrestling, he was the leader of Cuba in the 50s. It also is going to show each of the factions in some order along the top. So the card, in addition to having the person or the event, it might show like the government symbol, then the mob, then the 26th of July, then Directivo, while the next card might show another combination. So all the factions are always listed along the top, but in some different combination. And then in that order, in the order that they appear on the card, the players can choose what they want to do, either act or pass. If a player acts, then the next player in turn order can choose to either act or pass, and you do that until 2 players have chosen to act on the turn, and then that turn ends. Anyone who has taken actions, so the 2 players who have taken actions that round, are now ineligible to take actions the next round. Also, the strength of the action that the first player takes dictates how strong the second player's action can be. So if you choose to trigger a big event and you're the first person to act, the person who's going to act next, the second player to act in that round, is going to be left with a wide swath of options. But if instead you're trying to like maintain control or you're worried about what another person could do with that card, you can choose, if you go first, to take a small action, leaving them with a much smaller number of actions that they can choose. So the considerations you have are both whether or not I'm going to act in this round because maybe this card is like really strong. Maybe I know the next card doesn't show anything that I can do, so maybe I'm going to pass. There's a lot of different considerations. And then when you choose whether or not you're going to act or not, how powerfully you want to act. You want to act very powerfully and potentially leave a rival with another powerful action after you. Mixed in the stack of 50-ish cards every quarter or so, there are these propaganda cards, which are the only time that victory is checked. So if you meet your victory condition throughout the game, doesn't matter unless you do so when one of these cards comes up. So it's also a case of either trying to make sure that you're in a position to strike the moment the card is revealed, or put yourself in a winning position and not worry about timing so much, but then try to hold on. That's another big consideration with Cuba Libre. There's obviously a lot more to it than that, but I will say that playing Cuba Libre again reminded me that it's not really that heavy of a game. It's not light, and it's probably not even mid-weight, but it's certainly lighter than, say, any of your classic heavy Lacerdas, I would say. I'll also say that I absolutely loved it. Not only were Casey and Miguel great, but I was also pleasantly surprised by how quickly the rules came back to me and also how eager it got me to revisit that time in history. And it also made me want to dive back into the rest of the coin games that I have on my shelf gathering dust. A couple of caveats I need to put out here. My appreciation for the game is obviously skewed because I'm a history buff in general, so I can see the game perhaps not working out for those who aren't. Although I was amazed by how many people reached out to me and to us while we were playing, telling me and us how much they loved playing Cuba Libre. The amount of people who have experience with the game shocked me, to be frank. But again, take that into consideration. Also take into consideration that the games tend to be player count dependent. All the coin games tend to be. And so if you don't have the right number for that specific coin game, you either need to have somebody playing multiple factions, which I've heard it works fine in most cases, or you need to run a bot, which gives you a sort of flow chart to consider when taking non-player character actions. As we did with the Syndicate faction. Of the three of us, nobody was playing the mob, so the mob was played by the bot, which can definitely be a pain. But apparently there has been fan-made apps that automate the choices, so it's not that bad, and that's actually what we use, and it seemed to be just fine. Anyway, I absolutely loved Cuba Libre. It really reignited my desire to get it played again and my desire to run through the coin games. Also, last thing, Miguel tweeted that he shared this with his father, who is not a gamer, but was a teacher, and he watched our stream and now apparently is begging them to teach him the game when he comes to visit them later in the year, I guess. And so that made my day, made me really happy. So that was great, as is Cuba Libre.
What is the deal with, the older you get, Mark? And you can help us, right? Because
sure,
you're older than I.
Yeah,
by at least 10 years. Well, maybe just give, maybe 12 years. I will say you could probably beat me up, but that doesn't change the fact that you're old. So compliment and an insult. Your love of history has gotten larger as you've gotten older, or you've always been like that?
No, it definitely has.
You just experienced more of it.
That's right, yeah. Not so much history as my past. Yeah, no, I don't know. I've always been generally into historical things, but I haven't been what I would classify as a history buff until the last, decade or so.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed in my dad. He's reading about what that railroad baron guy is, Rockefeller. I don't know, someone. A biography on this guy, and I'm like, can we watch There'll Be Blood together, please?
Well, just have him Google Brain in a Jar Twitch. Watch that, and then if he wants me to come over with Cuba Libre. But anyway, that is Cuba Libre by GMT Games.
All right, so I played a game that people on the podcast might actually be interested in playing. It is a Reiner Knizia dice game called Gang of Dice.
Gangs of Dice?
I don't know. It's one of the two. You were saying gangs, and I think it's Gang of Dice, because I was thinking of
I think you were saying it the other way, the other round.
Well...
Who knows?
Who could say, really? This is Mandu Games, and I played a lot of this at a convention I went to in December that you didn't go to, that the name is PAX Unplugged. Gang of Dice. All right, so the game is awesome, and there's no mid-turn direction. I really like this one. There is a little problem, and that's a component problem, because the game comes with 36 dice, right? So it's already full of expensive dice. And then it comes with 42 gang tokens, which represent 3 dice, and they're literally synonymous with each other, right? So a token is 3 dice. But if you really wanted to pimp out your Gang of Dice game, you would need to turn in those 42 tokens for, 126 more dice? So to actually have a complete game, you would need 150 dice, which would be amazing because you're betting dice. Anyway, here's how it goes. Every turn, there is a condition. And there's some theme here, okay, about a gang and
dice.
And it doesn't matter, but for whatever reason, the die values go from 1 to 5, and then the 6 is replaced by the aforementioned gang leader, which is a non-value, not in the game, just to make it harder to amass a collection of 150 of these babies. And you are trying to roll most value-wise without going over. So let's say that the thing in the middle was a really easy card, 10 plus. If you roll 10 plus, you bust. Okay, and the first player is in the worst position because they have to go first. And they are doing a Yahtzee style roll as many dice as they want and then re-roll as many dice as they want up to 2 times. Okay, and there are 2 types of cards. The first type of card at the end of 3 rolls, at the end of 1 roll and 2 re-rolls, your value has to be underneath that trigger, 10 plus, right? So that's really easy to see. But the strategic discussion is that so 9 would be the best thing that you could roll in this game, except you get to choose. You, Mark, you, Neelan, get to choose how many dice you want to roll to try to hit this value. So you could be a little... Obviously, we'll bleep that. And that would be you're rolling 2 dice, right? And you get a 5 and a 4. And, then the next person's like, well, I got to roll 3. And so if they only get to 8 with 3 dice, 2 dice with 9 is better than 3 dice with 8. But what you are betting, right, is every dice that you use on that roll. So basically the whole game is about forcing everyone else to go in on like roll 7 dice, roll 8 dice. Like you're losing, you got to go even bigger. And the triggers they're a little complicated. So that was just the most basic one. So for instance, the roll could be invalid if it has a pair of any 2 numbers. So the other type of card, right, is no matter when you roll, if you hit this trigger, it blows up. So it's not at the end of your turn, it's whenever. And so some of it is about consecutive, if you have a 3 and a consecutive number, or 2 and a 3, or if you have 3 different values, like you lose. The other thing that makes the math a little weird, which I think is why the doctor did it, is that, gang face, right? This is the classiest gang face I've ever seen, first of all. The gang face is not a value. So in the context of 3 different values, the die face doesn't count. So 6 is just are a helpful roll in that context. But regardless, there are 12 rounds of the game, and you have a screen where you're hiding how many dice you're amassing, because by the end of it, you might have 4 dice and someone else has 100. And that's by virtue, right, of they've got a ton of these tokens that represent dice and then also a bunch of dice. But it does have that roll a bunch of dice. Everyone screams at the table. There are people at the convention, it was their game of the con. I probably played it 4 or 5 times with different groups of people. It was a great one to just bust out. I would not say it's my top tier Knizia games, but I will say it's pretty good.
Sounds pretty good. Sounds like a push your luck sort of Yahtzee sort of thing.
Yeah, you choose how many dice or die or whatever
right.
You nerds want me to call it, you get to roll is really funny, because especially the winner of a previous round has to go first, right? And then going last, you kind of know, because it's someone picks 3 and then the next person's like, well, I guess I have to pick 4. And, you can stop whenever you want, even if you're not, and a 12 plus, you're at 7, you could stop, and you can always just throw in 1 die and just be I'm right. not doing this. But that's a coward's way out.
And I assume the games are 20, 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's funny because even at 12 rounds, I wonder if it should be 10. Mm-hmm. Again, this is just, it's right on that line where it can be really funny at the end. You're either really winning or you're oh my God, I don't even have dice anymore. But it's good. You guys would both get a kick out of it. I don't think it would pop and be oh my God, I have to buy this today, but it's a good one for sure.
Seems fun.
It sounds like the perfect sort of, you said, convention game in that context. Is this a newer one, or is it a redo of an older Knizia?
I think it is a newer one. You can never know with this man, because they're all redos of older ones. And it's not an American publisher, right? I think Mandu is Korean, if I recall correctly. So yeah, I don't know if this one is coming out or where you can buy it, but a lot of people were buying it in the fall. You can order it direct from Mandu, but it's steep. Yeah, so this is a little harder to get. But fun. Very fun. Cool. That is Gang of Dice.
So I am going to be talking about Time of Empires. This was a game I sort of briefly spoke about sometime last year in one of my most anticipated lists, because just the idea of a real-time 4X civilization game was hilarious to me, whether or not it was going to like be good or not. And, you know, without bearing the lead, I'm happy to say that it is very good. I've been enjoying this a lot. So let's talk about what this is. This is in the brand of real-time game, which is mostly familiar from cooperative games like Kitchen Rush and Rush MD, where you are placing sand timers as workers. So it's worker placement, but the game breaks down into 3 ages, and each of those ages has a 9-minute real-time phase. So there's stuff that you're going to do in the prep before, but then once that real-time phase starts, you are placing one of your sand timers, you only have 2, onto either action spots on your personal board or onto the shared action spots where you're obviously going to be competing with other players. So let's talk very quickly about what some of those actions are. There are a couple that I'll just accumulate the 2 basic resources, which are bricks and knowledge. Knowledge you're going to be using for researching technology, which is probably the big thrust of the game. This is how you're going to get these cool special powers. These technologies are getting stronger from age 1 to age 2 to age 3. It's not really a tech tree at all. That would probably be too convoluted for a real-time game. But you see a deck of cards, you put your worker next to it, you take the top card, and that becomes a technology that you now have access to, which gives you 2 things. A power at the time that you research it by taking it out of your hand, putting it onto your board, spending the knowledge, and also the ability to build a corresponding building. Now, there is actually a shared map. So there's this hex map where everyone has a capital city at each of their starting positions. So you're placing these buildings out onto the board when you build them. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Other things you can do on your board are putting clans out onto this map. So you have a capital city, some hexes around it. You can add clans to your capital or any other cities you control in order to sort of deploy them onto the board. There's another action you can take, which is moving those clans. So you're going to take any number of clans based on how many of these spots you revealed, move them out across the map in order to claim territory. By claiming territory, that's how you get new places where you can build buildings. In addition, there is a military component to this. If you move your clan or stack of clans onto another player's stack of clans, it's just a very simple deterministic equal destruction. If I attack you with my 3 and you had 2, you lose 2, I lose 2, my 1 clan 6 around to hold that territory. So there's nothing that you need to really bother the other player for, short of just giving them their casualties back. By moving into a territory with another player's buildings, if at the end of the real-time phase that clan is still there, those buildings are destroyed. So there's this very tense gamesmanship happening towards the end of the real-time phase as people are sort of repositioning their clans to protect their borders and watching for their buildings to get destroyed. But to the game's credit, actually, it's not that detrimental to you personally if you lose buildings. In fact, you've already gained all the benefits you could get off of them. All that happens is the player that took them is getting points. But those points can be quite crucial because the earlier, if you do this in age 1, those buildings stay on your board and accrue points in every subsequent round. So it sort of promotes early aggression a little bit. You're getting onto each other's throats. Eventually, like, the hex tiles start to get very crowded and clustered. Opportunities for placing buildings get like smaller and smaller. So that is like a fun aspect of it. The other 2 points of competition are leaders and wonders. And this is the part I like about the game the most. The way the leaders work is there are going to be these passive abilities that you get at the end of the round if you have the most markers on that spot at the end of the round. So you're just stacking up your little clan markers, and you kind of just see that as any of these leaders that have very strong abilities get like very heated over, these stacks are just getting higher and higher and higher as people are just putting like their clan tokens on top of them in order to claim them at the end. And there's this element of like, you try to maybe sneak one to like take the win at some point during the real-time phase and hoping that Mark doesn't notice, oh, I'm actually not winning that card anymore, which is funny in and of itself. But the thing that I like the most about this is it's the same markers that you're using for your clan markers out on the board, which actually starts to become a very limited resource. So you can't both be spending your markers to like claim these cards as well as having a strong military presence. It starts to become a very delicate balancing act of which way you go. The wonders kind of work similarly in that whoever has the most markers on a wonder at the end of the round is going to be scoring the most points from that wonder specific objective, but other people can also be in there. It's not a winner takes all situation. If you're second place, you're also going to be getting some points and so on. And that kind of breaks down all the things you're able to do in Time of Empires. I found this like really, really fun because it's got that sort of very great balance of managing your own civilization, like the sort of thing that is kind of par for the course in like a Civ game like a Through the Ages, where you have your own personal tableau. You know, you're getting technology in, you're upgrading your ability to get new resources, you're upgrading your ability to move and deploy, but the parts where the game needs to be interactive, moving clans into other people's territory, competing over leaders, competing over wonders, do feel very interactive and competitive in a way that is both fun and frustrating. And then in totality, this is a game that is literally 3 rounds of about 15 minutes each. You know, there's a little bit of prep before and after. There's some cleanup based on like taking cities from each other, scoring points, that sort of thing. But with the real-time phase only being 10 minutes long kind of just means that this is just such a clean runtime and is a ton of fun to boot. I thought this was lovely.
So this sounds great based on your description of it. My concern when you're talking about a 4X real-time game would be, one, is there enough like Euro-iness to it that, and it sounds like there is, like that you would enjoy it, but does the real-time aspect of it muddy that? Do you get the sense that there is a lot of like, oh, I might have done that wrong? Does the real-time aspect hurt the game, or is that accounted for well, do you think?
I think I would even hesitate to even like associate the word Euro-y with this, because it's kind of light and it's very much a frivolity. It's not a game that you can take seriously pretty much for that exact reason, because I think it's like the sort of thing, the expectation is you look at it yourself at the end of the rounds like, I probably messed up like 5 things during that.
Okay.
And that's fine. I mean, ultimately, I will say that is probably its biggest fault, which is, you know, it is a game where you're going to be comparing your points at the end of the game. And it's like, I got 54 points. Mark got 57 points. But did you accidentally cheat for those 3 points? Like,
right.
Who knows? But
it was an accident.
Right. But like, if you were taking it that seriously, I think that you're kind of missing the point of what the game is, which is it's a game that plays on this style of 3-hour heavier event and turns it into kind of a goofy lark. And my worry for this would be potentially on like replay value, because, you know, a lot of gimmicky games kind of, once you get the gimmick, fall down a little bit. But I do think that what this has in terms of leaders that give you unique passive powers are quite strong. Different scoring objectives with the wonders, and even just the flow of technologies. Like, those technologies are quite fun when you, especially when you get into like age 3 and you pick up a card and you're like, that seems crazy. It has that thing you want from technology games, where the later techs are both varied and kind of wild and play into a bunch of different playstyles, whether it's like military or your own personal scoring and stuff like that. So I think it has legs. It's also theoretically like expandable, like just by adjusting those cards. So I don't know that I'd be too worried in that front. I will say one thing that does put me off recommending it entirely is the price. It's coming in at around $70, which is probably too much. It's a game that I don't think... Yeah.
I'm going to let you finish, but have you been in a grocery store lately?
I mean, there's a fair point.
Eggs cost $9, Nealon. Okay, so if we do the math, 12 times 9, no. Wait, no. 7.
You could either have 100 and something eggs, or you could have Time of Empires.
Yeah, which would you rather have?
Oof, 84 eggs or Time of Empires?
In that case, I would go for Time of Empires.
All right, but you have no food, and now you get started.
Well, I have no eggs. Yeah, it's a game that maybe sounds like it should be cheaper, and even based on that description, but I think what you get in the box is a fair bit. You know, it's sand timers, it's a whole bunch of plastic and wooden pieces for the buildings. I think it looks quite nice, even if the colors are a little bit garish. But yeah, the box is terrible, though. I'll give it that.
The cover, I wouldn't even guess, but it does have like a World War II soldier in a conflict with, I think, someone in a Roman hat brandishing a bow. So, Mark, I assume that's all up to snuff.
Yeah, that is historically accurate. I could go on for about 40 minutes about the what is it, Roman soldier battle of whenever? Yeah.
Yeah. It was a time of empires.
But yeah, that is Time of Empires. I think that it's a game that has a really, really fun premise and actually surprisingly lived up to it for me. I would even go as far to say that in the genre of sand timers as workers, this is probably my favorite.
All right, one last dig, Nealon.
Yeah.
How does this game compare to playing Innovation with a 60-second chess clock?
Oh, I would say it's strictly better.
Oh my God. Cut that part out. Yeah. How dare you, sir, do this entire thing without mentioning Innovation one time?
Ridiculous.
On my episode, on the self-titled Kellen.
Uh-huh.
I want to try this. I think I would have fun.
Yeah, it does seem fun. It does seem fun.
I know that we've said this for every game, but this is definitely one I'm going to bring to Dark Far West. Because I do think, especially with Christina, like the four of us, we could be in and out of this in 45 minutes and have a great time. It's perfect.
It is a hard sell, because it's like real time just doesn't, once you get outside of like kites, right, which is like where I totally get it because it's a 4-minute card game. It's like, I don't know that I've ever enjoyed one that's longer than that, I guess. I don't know.
I'm with you. That is going to be a question you'll have to ask yourself. Does heavier, longer, but not long, real-time games sound like something that you would enjoy?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I want to try it, so yes. I'm in it to win it.
Oh, there it is. That's Time of Empires.
All right. Here in the middle is the part where we remind you, and I get reminded too, of the URL where you can submit your top 20 board games of all time for our episode where we go over the listener top 20. You can find that link at
/top 20.
Okay. I was thinking that we'd all be in sync and one of you would just sort of
Oh, sorry. I thought you were like
boardgamebarrage.com
yeah.
/top 20.
boardgamebarrage.com /top 20.
Yeah. Only about a minute later. Yeah, you were on top of that, Neelan. All right, so this is the debut of a new section, and I'm not exactly sure how it goes because I was told to take off my headphones during the prep phase. We're coming off one of the most stressful weeks of my life, so I'm hoping that I can live up to being the interviewee, but I belinquish, that's not a word, but betroth, no,
Yep.
I hand the scepter of hosting to you two together because one of you...
I'm going to hold the top of it and Neil's going to hold the bottom of it.
One of you on each side.
Yeah.
I can sort of hold it with one hand, but you guys...
No, you can't hold it.
Oh, no, it's gone now. And scene.
All right, this is for a new series that we're calling... Neelan, what did you come up with?
Oh, I thought we were just going to be calling it
Kellen?
Kellen.
Self-titled.
Yeah.
No, we have not come up with it. Maybe listeners can come up with a title for this series.
Is it going to be better than Board Game Barrage Battle of the Boards, Mark?
Probably not. But yeah, it should be something like that. It should be an acronym that the listeners can come up with. Anyhow, so the idea is that we are going to have guests on, of which Kellen is the first and surely the best, where we are going to ask them questions about their ideal game night, this theoretical ideal night. And so sort of open-ended questions. The guests can be as creative as they can be. We have low expectations for the first guest. And just sort of see what we can come up with. So, Neelan, do you want to ask the first question of our guest?
Yes. Kellen, I want you to picture this in your brain, this ideal game night, and tell me, where are we playing? What is the location?
Okay. I can do this. This is an easy one. I imagine the tough ones are coming. It's okay. I've kind of actually been thinking about this because I just moved, which I think, everyone can tell because my voice sounds even better than it traditionally does on account of the ceilings being lower. But it's like the room size matters, okay? So can I answer it with what it isn't?
You can answer it however you want.
Okay, because it's not like Neelan's board game room.
That
because
is unfair.
That room is, you can't even pull your chair all the way out because there's calyxes on every corner. And then the one corner where there's not calyxes, there's a mirror. So you're looking at yourself from across. No, because there's a lot of specifics, right? Because it's like, I would love for it to be kind of like a basement, almost like a movie theater room-esque sort of vibe. See, I would like for it to be a backyard, okay? I tried this once, and then the wind, okay? Yeah. So that's a thing. You can't play board games in the wind, right?
Right.
That hasn't been solved yet.
No.
The wind.
If anyone could solve it.
We need heavier cards. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Stonemeyer, I think, is working on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the room has the right lighting, okay? Right? And lighting is key.
Let's just rewind a quick second because basement. Why basement?
Because it's cozy. Okay, but it's not like an LA apartment like Nealon's place, right?
Okay.
A lot of space, but it's cool, right? Because you're wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
There's nothing more comfortable than a hoodie.
Yeah. Scientific.
Do you agree with that?
I agree. I wear hoodies like all the time. Legitimately.
Exactly. So it's got to be cool. So that's the basement. But the lighting, okay, and I don't know if this is not real or if I'm getting old, okay, because it's like lighting used to be perfect and now it's not perfect, okay, because it's like the light that shoots upward, right? That's indirect lighting. I think that's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Indirect. But then you can't see the colors
Right.
of the different stuff. And then the direct light that shines, then you can't see the colors because of the glare.
You're right.
So there's like this perfect light where it's like not too dark. Like you agree, this is the perfect lighting.
Yeah, it's like you don't want overhead lighting ideally, but you don't want the lights purely just to be like bounce light. There needs to be some degree of like light. Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
But it's like if you're designing it, right, it's the perfect lighting. The thing is I'm concerned it's only in my mind and that
right,
it doesn't
can't actually exist.
You said you were concerned that it's because you're getting old. So let me test that.
Sure.
You're getting old. Kellen, I have a history book that I'd like to offer you. What do you think about it?
I don't want it.
Okay, so you're not old yet. Don't worry about it.
It depends on the history. It's like there's like a vibe. Do you know what I mean? It's dark enough, but you can still see everything.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in ideal lighting?
Well, that's what I'm concerned about, that I'd like my eyes are just getting bad. And I do have bad eyes, right? Remember when we thought I had a MRI thing last year? Well, that's not a thing. When I had to go in for an MRI because they were like, it's either you have bad eyesight or your brain is like goofed up.
That's right.
It was the eye doctor. The eye doctor, like, I went in to see him and he gave me his personal cell number and said, go get an MRI immediately. A doctor has never given me their cell phone number.
That's a bad sign.
Has that happened to you?
No.
I have not.
I mean, a lot of nurses have given me their numbers over the years. Male and female. All right. Okay. So we've got not too many shelves, right? We've got the right lighting. I am not convinced that board game tables are real,
That they exist.
that they are worth using
Okay.
because, okay, of the low back.
Because of the
Elaborate.
low back.
You might be saying, what about the on the low back? And I'm saying that if you watch any fitness influencers, it's just low back.
Oh, you mean just from like, yeah, hunching over a table. I get where you're at. Yeah.
Because you got to have the right chair to go with the board game table.
Yeah.
And once you spent $3,000 on the table, you can't afford the chairs.
I see. So it's like a standing situation at that point.
Right? So you just get a standing
No, but it's
board
like,
game.
why is it good that the table is in, like, I get it if you're playing craps, right? Like, why is it good that the table is down? I get why it's good that it has, like, felt on it, but why is it good that it's down?
For me, as someone that does like a board game table, it's kind of just the sense of like being over and above the game to some extent. It's like the fact that you...
Nealon likes to assert dominance.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're looking into a space. It's almost got like a... I don't know what the word
Black
is.
and
like,
white. Like
yes.
you're the hand.
Yeah, exactly.
of
Like
God.
you're in your own God game and you're just picking people up, and then I just go "Roar" as I'm doing it. But it's not unlike that. It's kind of like a miniature world sort of vibe. It's kind of the sense that you're looking into a place. That's what the appeal is for me, at least.
What if it was like a foot deep?
that would be yeah. The deeper, the better. If you could just get like just the edge of the table and all the way down to the floor, that would be incredible.
You actually climb into the table.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And it's easily accessible and people come over like 3 times a week. But it's at my house because I don't want to drive.
It's funny because like even when we were thinking about this question, I hadn't considered like that aspect of it. The geography of the location and how just important it is to be central to people. I think that is a huge deal. That's something I struggle with.
Yeah. LA sucks.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, we sort of started going down this road already, but now that we know that you hate playing games on my board game table, what would your idea...
And at your place.
Yeah, exactly.
To be clear.
In my room, in my LA apartment, at my board game table with me, what would you consider like your ideal table surface? Like, what does that look like? Furniture-wise, tell me everything.
A hexagon. The rectangle tables, you're too far away from the other person.
Right.
And a square table also sucks. So I actually like the like card tables. Again, I'm going back on myself. The sort of like different shaped tables for different games. Like ideally with a 6-sided table, but everyone's got a little inlet, like a hexagon table. I don't know what we're playing on this table yet, but like, again, and it can't work for every game, right? Because some games take up a lot of space, but probably in a perfect world, it's a hexagon.
So do you have like a bunch of like fold out tables and you have like a hexagon table for like most games and you have like a bigger table for other games? Or are you going to have like a wood grain hexagon table that is also going to act as like a regular house table?
Okay, so it is wood grain, right? And apparently I like the lighter wood grains, but my brother works with wood and he has told me that that is out of vogue now. Do you know what that means? The darker stains are in, but I prefer the lighter stained wood.
So it is a lighter stained, out of vogue hexagon table.
But not a fold out. Okay.
Gotcha.
The basement is just big enough
Just
for all these different player counts.
You have like, your square table here next to your hexagon table, next to your circle table.
It's like if you were playing like Fuji Flush. You know what I mean? A hexagon table where everyone is relatively close to each other but still can sort of reach the center. That would be ideal.
I actually want to say, not to derail too much, but like one of the big table places, I forget which one, does make a hexagonal table. So this could be in your future.
Could be purchased.
Exactly.
I could buy it. Or we could get it. Maybe they'll sponsor the episode.
Yeah, maybe.
Or we'll give one away to me, the guest.
Right. Okay, so as seems to have been your pattern up until now, you kind of led into the next question. How many people are sitting at your hexagonal table, Kellen?
See, it's like this is a party. Right? There's a party and then there's actual games. So you're straddling this like really fine line, you know? So it's probably 6. I could do 8. Okay. I find that I'm funnier with 6. It's not a joke. No. As a human, I get lost in the plot of groups above 8 and I end up just like wall hanging, you know, or letting Christina sort of go around and talk to everybody. In groups of like 6 or less, I feel like I can be 1/6 of the discussion, or if I'm too loud, 2/6. So it's like a group of 6 that is not just, it's not just 4, you know, like again, if we're playing specific games, it's just 4 and it's Mark, Neil, and Christina. Like that's sacrosanct. That's gold, you know, but it's like, if I'm having like this social-ish night, it's probably 6. And again, I could do 8 if I had to, but it's 6, I think.
People don't get the true Kellen at 8.
Yeah.
You get a good Kellen, but true Kellen peaks at 6.
Listen, I don't even know how you guys do it at like conventions. You know what I mean? There are times at conventions where I just like sit in the corner and I like hide my head. And I'm like, I thought I was more social than Neelan. Not Mark. Okay, I thought than Neelan. And Neelan has just like got like 30 people. He's like got a gang of people. And I'm like, what is happening?
All right. So we have the location. We've got the table. We've got the number of people around the table. Are we eating anything for your ideal game night? Are we snacking? Do you have snacks? What are the snacks? Are you a no food around my game guy?
I don't think you are. I'm not a never snack guy, okay? Salty. For sure. What?
I just love that you pivot from one sentence, start the next sentence with salty. Just powerful. I love it.
Yeah. Sweet is a waste of calories, right? In the new year, I'm trying to track my calories. Okay. But it's like 1,500 or less. You can't eat anything with this little calories. And I would rather have a bag of chips than a candy bar, though I did just eat s'mores ice cream on the show, which I probably need to log now. No, I would say like some kind of popcorn. Again, maybe even it could be kettle corn. I'm okay with like if we dip both ways, right? Like kettle corn, a good snack. Uh-oh. She's coming in to defend Sweet.
I think
instead
Christina
of
needs to
Salty.
be our second guest. It seems pretty clear.
Yeah, she doesn't understand the focus, right? Which
It's
is
you.
which is me and not her. You can hear every word I'm saying. What do you mean? Why am I the focus?
Ask them, why are you the focus?
She wants to know why I'm the focus.
This is episode 264, Kellen.
The episode's called Kellen.
No.
She says you can't call it
Vetoed.
that.
Vetoed.
Do you have that power?
Yeah.
She says yeah.
Wait, this
Is
really, it's not about you, right? It's everybody gets to talk about their favorite.
No, it's
What? Give me this. What?
It's a new thing we're trying where we just pivot Kellen as the focus of the show.
Yeah, doing a new interview series where we interview people about their theoretical best game night,
So
their ideal.
Right, but this whole thing is you two interviewing Kellen?
Look, I think we've built up enough listeners at this point that we can lose a couple. So
If anything,
It's
we
fine.
have too many.
yeah, we have too many, so it's fine.
No, but seriously, what's going on? That's really
This is what's going
happening.
on. We asked Kellen his theoretical ideal game night.
So this
What are you serving?
entire episode is about Kellen.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay,
This is
you
what we've come
better
to.
you better like say that in the upfront so people can, make a
No to skip
decision if they want to listen or not. I'm
That's
sad
fair.
some people love Kellen and want to listen, but
Yeah,
you
the
know,
majority.
let them know what they're getting into.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. Good point. We hadn't considered that. Neelan, take that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it actually is good to just title it Kellen now that I think about it.
Kellen, when we asked him what snacks he's having, he said, as you heard, salty.
I heard about the snacks. Yeah, I just am still blown away by this concept.
Yeah, you're having a hard time.
The best part is that we're doing this in the hope that we could do this to other guests, but it may just forever just be the Kellen episode, and that's it. That's as far as the segment goes.
But how did this come about? Like Mark and Neelan, you guys were just like, I don't want to talk about my favorite game night. I just want to know every little detail about what Kellen
Yeah.
dreams about.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
basically-
much.
Yeah, that's sort of what we talk about before Kellen hops on these calls. we wonder what Kellen's doing, what he's thinking.
What he's dreaming about. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you guys get back to it then.
All right. So then, episode 265 is Christina.
all right.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was all about you.
That's why I'm talking so much. That's totally unnormal. Right. We were on a digression about kettle
We were
corn.
on salty. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with people eating snacks. I think
Okay, but
no Cheetos.
here's the question. The question. This is your ideal game night, and you're telling me
Sure.
people can have this, people can have that. What do you want?
Yes. Okay, fine. Salted soft pretzels.
Salt.
Specific.
Okay.
Because not the little pretzels
Yeah,
at
not-
the supermarket.
Not like
Yeah.
crumbly pretzels. You want something that's going to be clean.
Yes. And
Oh, man.
and then
Delicious.
maybe popcorn lighter or kettle corn so it's not greasy like movie theater popcorn. And what are we drinking? Red Bull?
exclusively.
What? No, I'm serious.
Okay,
I
Red
have-
Bull and pretzels.
I have
Part.
a Red Bull fridge. Unfortunately, I've transitioned to sugar-free. 10 calories in a can. Log that in the app.
All right, so let's get to the game. Let's stop flapping around and let's get to the game. So, what is the theme of the game? We're not talking about
It's not
design.
it's not a game. It's just a theme.
Yeah, of the theme of the game, of this theoretical game.
Sure.
What do you want it to be about?
Not the mechanisms, but the theme.
The theme. Pokemon. Next question.
I was wondering if I could get away with that. It's not sci-fi, right? It's easier sometimes to say what it's not. It's not sci-fi, right? And it's not grim dark fantasy, right? Where everybody dies. It could be like dragony fantasy, but it's not mobile chibi art fantasy.
Yeah.
But it's not Tolkien fantasy.
I was going to say, we're not talking medieval fantasy. You mean just like more like a more modern, more creative fantasy take.
Bright,
Yeah.
colorful, but hasn't gone full Descent 3rd edition.
Right.
Okay, and then so let's dig in a little bit more. So, what is the game like?
It's a negotiation game.
Okay, a bright fantasy themed negotiation game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could. Again, I like a variety of themes. You know, there's some like corporate, like if I can pretend like it's my job, except it's a game and I can like scumbag everybody. like a corporate boardroom sort of thing.
Right.
I'm watching a K-drama right now called My Mister, and they have sort of like this succession, like who's going to succeed to be the CEO, and there's different factions within the company all trying to get their guy hired.
Right.
Like, that's a cool theme. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except we're not in Korea.
Unfortunately, if only. But regardless, it's going to have negotiation as a mechanism.
Yes, it's fairly central, right? I think the hard thing is it's like area control. It's like very feisty, right? I think that pure negotiation games actually are too much for me. Like a diplomacy is like actually not my favorite game night. Though I guess it does have area control, but really it just bakes down to like straight diplomacy. Mm-hmm. It's like there has to be some mechanism with which it's not just about being mean to each other.
All right. And so for the last question, this is the trademark last question of this series. It is, Neelan,
what makes the game night so memorable? Is it a big moment? Is it because you win?
No, probably not. Like, I think beating you guys is worth it.
Right.
I think I often, and maybe this is just like a player profile thing, I prefer to do something splashy or unexpected, sort of flirt with everybody, but then you'll never believe who he goes home with. But seriously, like, there's this flow state or state where, I'm really in my head a lot of the time, right, in my life, like not enjoying the roses or smelling or whatever. And the best game nights just have this flow where it's like laughing and playing and silly, and I get lost in those moments. And it's when I get out of my head to some degree, and you're just sort of there, and then like the hours pass and you're like, wow, like that was fulfilling.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end the first in our series of interviews. That was a great answer, and I think it was a great interview. I think we got really down to the core of the man there.
Gotta have the big salt crystals on the pretzel. I tried it with table salt. Does not work.
No.
I'm going to sneak in some, Velveeta-style cheese.
No, Mark.
What? Oh, man, I love soft pretzels with that cheese. God, I just dunk those things in there.
Think you're getting ahead of yourself. I would check the title of this episode before you share any more dumb opinions.
So I guess you're doing the outro of your own episode. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Kellen.
That's going to do it. Thank you, Kellen, for coming on the show. Thank you for your candid answers and the reverence with which you took the format. Thank you to Mark and Neelan, who read the questions that they were handed on a piece of paper. And thank you to Heart Society Music for their song, What's on Your Mind, Kid, from their album Wake the Queens. Let us know what you what you think of this self-titled oh god, we seriously cannot call this episode Kellen.
Oh yeah, 100% are.
Okay, but if people like my
Hate
people in real life are like, oh, Kellen, I know this person Kellen, he has a podcast, which episode so I listened to, and there's one just called Kellen, they're like, oh, that's the one I'll listen to. That's what we want them. All right, and that is going to do it. Come chat with us on Discord, BoardGameBarrage.com/Discord. You can find us anywhere. You can email us at BoardGameBarrage@gmail.com. Thank you seriously for listening to the show. We're close to 5, right?
I believe this is actually our anniversary week.
Oh, it is.
Probably would be the good episode.
Is this 5?
Topic.
Yeah.
I think this literally goes out on our anniversary. Because it's the 18th of February, if I'm not mistaken. No, a couple of days before.
So, yeah, the next week is our 5th. Yeah, because I could not bear the mantle of that. Thank you, and good night.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. And, without bearing the lead, I'm proud to say that... I'm proud to say... Without bearing the lead,
no,
I'm
be
happy
proud,
to say...
Neil.
I'm proud.
Be proud.
I'll own it. Great. I am happy to say... Is it going to be better than Board Game Barrage Battle of the Boards, Mark?
Probably not. But yeah, it should be something like that. It should be an accurate or Not an anachronism. What do you call it?
Relinquish?
A relinquish. Yeah, it should be a relinquish. No, it should be a...
I said that in confidence, Neelan.
What do you call that? FBI
Acronym.
acronym. It should be an acronym.
I don't want it.
Okay, so you're not old yet. Don't worry about it.
It depends on the history. Oh, what?
Hello, surprise guest.
Christina's here.
All right, so we're replacing our guest.
Yeah.
Self-titled?
Get out.
What is? Are you giving me ice cream?
No, that's mine.
Oh, wait. Then what do you? I get to take. Uh-oh.
Hello.
Hi, Christina.
Hello.
You're now on the episode as our new guest.
I just wanted to clarify. Well, first of all, the walls in this new house are very thin. So I'm over there trying to read and enjoy my ice cream. And I can hear every word Kellen is saying. So I just wanted to clarify something he was saying, which is all about lighting, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that there's any lighting that can be perfect for Kellen. I think that he will be forever tinkering with the lighting.
Excuse me?
Forever. No matter what it is, where we are, it's never going to be perfect. That's all. I think it's a Kellen thing. I think he just wants so badly to have this perfect scenario. This could get very philosophical, but I think I'm going to go back to my ice cream now. Okay, well, that's all. And I hope you have a good record, as they say. And
Well, make sure to leave the listeners with your trademark phrase, with your catchphrase.
woohoo! That one?
Sure.
Okay. Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day.
All right, let me take one bite of the.
Okay, go ahead. It's really good.
Is it
What is
good?
it?
S'mores, Ben and Jerry's.
Ah, that's a good one.
That's what it's called.
So let's see. Can you hear this?
Yeah, that came through. Our listeners are going to be salivating at that.
That's pretty good.
I take a second scoop.
No, good. That's cold.
Ice cream. What are you going to do? Can't heat it up.
I was told at work that I'm very emotionally sensitive in the good way. Like I can sense the room. You know what I'm saying?
Pathetic.
Yeah.
Not pathetic.
Yeah. And that's what the lighting.
Furniture-wise, tell me everything.
All right, real question. And don't edit this, Mark, so I sound like an idiot. What is a six-sided? What is this shape?
A hexagon.
Okay. I think, and Mark, don't you dare. Okay, I know there's, by the way, this coaster is from Startups, the game, Flamingo Soft, right here. Condom brand, okay? Hexagon.